Hello, everyone. It's Thuan again. Before we dive into this podcast, I want to mention that this episode might be quite long, so I'll put a timeline with timestamps below for easier tracking. If you follow me on Facebook, TikTok, or Instagram, you probably already know this news, as I've posted it across all my social media platforms. This time, Lan and I, from the Dad's TV page, have decided to jointly build a school in Điện Biên. We are both fundraising ambassadors, meaning we'll do everything in our power, using all the communication channels we have, to raise 220 million VND to build this school in Hang Tro, Điện Biên. The morning of August 22nd, or rather the night of August 21st, when I'm recording this podcast, Lan and I had just started posting to call for support and donations to build the school. After just 3 hours on August 21st, the next morning when we checked the bank statement, we had already received almost 50 million VND. Lan and I were so happy we burst into tears. Even though it wasn't our money, it was for the school, and we gained nothing from it personally, we just cried with joy. I'm a crybaby who can cry about anything. From the moment Lan sent me photos of the school and invited me to join, oh my God, I saw those extremely dilapidated classrooms for the children, their eating and sleeping areas, and I just cried buckets. From the nearest point where you can ride a motorbike, there are 2 kilometers of dirt road to reach the school. If it rains, it gets muddy and difficult to traverse, forcing people to walk because vehicles can't pass. There are people out there in such dire circumstances. The road to school is already treacherous and muddy. School supplies like pens, rulers, and notebooks are scarce, and the school itself is leaky and crumbling, with no proper place to eat or sleep. Looking at those images, it's incredibly heartbreaking. I really dislike people who think the poor are unwise, ignorant, or lack long-term vision. That's not it at all. For them, simply surviving day-to-day is already a struggle, so they are forced to trade long-term benefits for short-term ones. I believe poverty like this is a vicious cycle. When they are too poor, when food and clothing are difficult to come by, when the school, a place to study, isn't even safe or able to shield them from rain or sun, and their homes are hills away with difficult roads to traverse, what can they cling to try and improve their lives? Whenever I think about these issues, they haunt me. That's why when Lan invited me, I immediately agreed to help build it. I didn't think twice. Lan asked, and I just did it. I truly hope everyone can join hands in our fundraising plan to build this school. We need 220 million VND. We've converted this into symbolic bricks, where each brick is worth 20,000 VND, and we need 11,000 bricks. If you have a little, contribute a little. If you have a lot, contribute a lot. And if you can't contribute bricks, you can also like our posts. I'll leave the links to our fundraising posts in the description below. Oh, and the most important part that I almost forgot to mention. The money you donate will not go into my pocket or Lan's, but directly into the account of the new M. Suckman 2000. Nourish My Child, Power of 2000 Foundation, which has a legitimate website. You can visit the website to view the transaction statements, which are audited by the National Volunteer Center, so everything is super transparent. You can rest assured it's completely transparent. When I first posted, I was a little scared, worried that no one would care or anything. So, waking up the next morning and finding out we had 50 million VND, oh my God, I was so overjoyed I cried intensely. And there were so many sweet stories. A mother of a child messaged me, saying, "Sister, I'm a student, so I can only contribute 1 or 2 bricks. Is that okay?" And I told her, of course. We broke down the fund into individual bricks so that anyone with a kind heart could participate. I believe that when we do something good, the value isn't as important as the intention we put into it. Then there were these adorable kids who told me they didn't have money, but they could ask their classmates to contribute together as a whole class fund and then donate it. Oh my God, reading that message just warmed my heart tremendously. Besides fundraising, Lan and I are also hosting workshops. These workshops will have a fee, and 100% of the proceeds will be transferred directly to the school building fund. There are 2 main workshops, and both Lan and I will be the speakers for both sessions. The first workshop is How to Turn Ideas into Content, and the second is How to Make a Podcast. When writing promotional posts for the workshops, Lan didn't want me to flex or brag about her too much, saying to be humble. But she probably won't listen to my podcast, so I'm going to share some of Lan's achievements for anyone interested in joining the workshops. Lan is the author of the Dad's TV fan page, with over 600,000 followers on Facebook, and the author of 3 published books that have sold tens of thousands of copies. I don't remember the exact figures. Lan also has 3 years of experience teaching content, not just regular teaching, but she also teaches at corporations. I don't know why someone with such an impressive profile tells me not to overpromote her. It's not overpromotion at all, I'm just stating the facts. As for me, well, I'm shy too when I talk about these things. But for several years now, I've consistently ranked top 1, sometimes top 2, on Spotify Vietnam, and I'm quite viral on TikTok. I won't say too much because I don't want to waste the time of those who aren't interested. I'll include detailed information in the registration link below. If anyone is interested in joining, please sign up for our workshops. Okay, that concludes the promotional part. Now, let's get to the main podcast topic, anxiety and anxiety disorders. Before I begin, I want everyone to note one thing: I am not a psychologist. I haven't received professional training in psychology, psychiatry, or mental health. To be frank, I'm just a patient. If you listen to my story and find that you have some similar symptoms, please don't assume you have the illness. You really need to see a doctor. You truly need to get diagnosed. Don't be like, "Oh, I Googled my symptoms and now I think I have cancer." No, that's not right. This podcast is solely my personal experience. It may not be true for everyone. Listen to it to gain a new perspective, that's all. It's not a guide to treatment or anything professional. I have to say this up front because with sensitive topics like this, I don't want anyone to listen and then think, "Oh, maybe I have it too." Please don't do that. It makes me feel heavy and anxious. In episode 44, I told everyone about a really terrible period for me. I was deep in debt, thought I was going to die, and my mother was seriously ill, right? I'm not bringing these things up again to dwell on past hardships, but to help you understand why I developed this condition. During that time, my mental state was extremely unstable, and I went to the psychiatric department at Bach Mai Hospital. If you feel your mental state is also unstable and you're struggling financially like I was, you could consider Bach Mai for examination. I don't know if the prices have increased now, but back then, it cost 200,000 VND. The result was that I had severe anxiety, an anxiety disorder. Actually, I think anxiety is always necessary because it stems from fears, and fears are like brakes in our lives. They have 2 sides. They prevent us from going too fast, which could cause accidents or danger, and they can also keep us at a safe, moderate level. But if we use them incorrectly, if we slam on the brakes, we might fall head over heels, right? Fear is similar. Without fear, people would do anything recklessly, and this world would probably descend into chaos. If there were no fear, I would just let life drift by without bothering to try or do anything. Because fear, anxiety, is what stimulates us to develop, to act, to do something. So, I think anxiety is necessary. During my illness, I remember the doctor who examined me told me that once a person has an anxiety disorder, they can only try to manage the condition. If you want to be completely free of anxiety for life, that's not possible. Only truly oblivious people don't experience anxiety. Every human being, to some extent, will feel anxious. You can distinguish between normal anxiety and excessive anxiety by considering that normal anxiety is short-term and definitely useful. It helps you prepare for work, helps you focus on tasks. But when anxiety is excessive, it means it comes for no reason, or it becomes prolonged and significantly impacts your life. When I had severe anxiety disorder, I think the biggest issue stemmed from financial problems because I was broke at the time. I was in my 2nd year of university and had already started being financially independent. My mother was seriously ill, and I didn't want her to worry, so I didn't tell her about my financial situation. I was heavily in debt, and at the end of each month, I had a huge bill to pay. Often, the due date would arrive, and I wouldn't have the money to pay, and I wouldn't know how to cope. This problem weighed heavily on me, it just consumed me. Imagine if you were attacked by an aggressive dog, you could run, right? But when those debt bills piled up, I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't run away from those bills. It was debt. How could I run from debt? And at those times, I couldn't do anything but endure it, just sit there worrying. What now? How do I earn money? How do I pay this monthly debt? And that stress became excessive. It was no longer a motivation for me to work, but a burden, a crushing pressure. Over time, I developed excessive anxiety, coupled with other life problems I faced at the time, as I mentioned in the previous podcast. I don't want to recount them again, it would sound like complaining. So that's why I developed an anxiety disorder. I myself have some obsessions with money and finances, as I've mentioned in episode 4 of my Young and Clumsy podcast. From childhood to adulthood, my biggest lack has always been money. So, whenever issues involving money arise that I can't resolve, I always get inexplicably anxious. People would be like, "Why? Why can you be so anxious about that?" For example, this time, participating in the fundraising campaign to build the school with Lan, throughout our planning process for communication, workshops, and everything, I constantly had these inexplicable worries. What if the posts flop? What if no one donates? What if we don't raise enough money? And sometimes I even had these very strange fears that even Lan, my partner, would ask, "Why? Why are you afraid of things you can't control?" If you can control something, you can be afraid and anxious. But when you can't control it, why be afraid? But precisely because I couldn't control it, because I lost control, that's why I was anxious. That's one type of anxiety I'll talk about later. But precisely because I couldn't control the problem, I became even more anxious. Overall, this time I feel very lucky because I'm doing the workshops with Lan. I won't feel too lonely or have to overcome everything by myself. Lan is also a person with a strong enough spirit not to be swept away by my anxiety, leading us both to sit and cry together. In moments when I get overly anxious, Lan reassures me, brings me back to reality, saying, "Stop overthinking, stop overanalyzing, and look at things clearly." In those moments, I feel truly, truly fortunate to have friends like her in my life. Lan is also a worrier, but her anxiety is purposeful. She worries in a way that seeks solutions to problems, not in a way that gets stuck like me. In my life, I've met many people who seem to have endless strength, and Lan is one of them. She organizes everything so smoothly. The sheer volume of work she can handle is enormous. Sometimes I feel incredibly lucky to meet such amazing people in my life. They always seem full of vitality, truly living and passionate about life. They have their own worries and struggles, but from an outsider's perspective, I witness their passion in doing what they do, how they strive to grow, and I know that this person will succeed. This person must succeed because the way they do things is truly so enthusiastic, so passionate. And I just wish, oh life, please be gentle with this person. Let them achieve what they want. Because I know if they succeed, if they achieve those things, the community around them will surely benefit because they are a kind person, truly an inspiring person. And because I know Lan will never listen to this podcast, friends, never listen to each other's podcasts, right? This is the first time I'm expressing these things. Normally, in real life, we never say sappy things like this to each other. She is truly someone I feel very fortunate to know, like a friend, a colleague, an older sister, a mentor, someone I can share many things with and who accompanies me through many aspects of life. I admit, I've been a bit stressed lately because this is my first time participating in such a big campaign. Plus, generally, a few other issues have cropped up recently. Once I resolve those problems, I'll record another podcast to tell all about it. But for now, yes, because of these things, I've been a bit stressed lately, and I've realized that stress isn't always bad. I find English very interesting because it distinguishes different types of emotions and states so clearly. In English, there's the word stress, which everyone knows, right? Within stress, they further divide it into two types: eustress and distress. Eustress is when that stress acts as a motivation for you to grow. You have more concerns and you literally get off your butt and work without procrastinating to be more useful and efficient in your work. Distress, on the other hand, is a rather negative type of stress. It becomes a burden and literally makes you stressed. That's the kind of stress that makes you tired but doesn't push you to work. It just leaves you in a state of procrastination and annoyance with yourself for procrastinating. So lately, I've been feeling a bit insecure and stressed, but I know that these insecurities and stresses are positive in nature. Because sometimes in life, you need insecurity to move forward. If everything were always smooth, if you could always predict everything that would happen to you and nothing extraordinary ever occurred, it wouldn't be very interesting. Before, I told you all that I was preparing for a new journey, a new chapter in my life, and it's truly happening. There have been many changes in my life lately. I genuinely feel like I'm living out the years of my 20s right now. People often say your 20s are the foundation for your future. Best-selling self-help books often refer to this age as the foundational stage. But I don't see it as a foundation because I find this age to be full of fluctuations. I'm in the process of becoming something I don't yet know, and there will be many times when I ask myself, who will I become, and do I want to become that person? I constantly compromise between the person I am becoming now and the person I want to be. At the same time, I've also realized that discovering who I am doesn't happen by knowing that person already exists and then choosing to become them. Instead, each person's growth comes from the most unexpected experiences. And I know that when random variables, unexpected things, happen in our lives, causing our lives to veer in a different direction, we usually get very scared. We tend to fear the unknown until it becomes familiar, right? Everyone is like that. Sometimes, unexpected things happen in our lives that feel like a crushing blow from the heavens. I know everything happens for a reason, but why did this happen to me? If you ask if it hurt, oh, it hurt a lot. I cried so much and kept asking myself over and over, why did this happen to me? But now, I've learned to embrace everything more positively. Instead of dwelling on how pathetic or unfair my life is, or why this happened to me, I try to think about what this experience is trying to teach me, what I need to learn from such terrible experiences. I keep telling myself to try and live positively. Positivity doesn't mean being naively optimistic, laughing, and ignoring problems. Positivity means accepting the challenges and lessons that come our way, knowing they happen because they must. When I went for my checkup and found out I had severe anxiety, honestly, I was incredibly sad. I felt like, why are all the terrible things in the world happening at once? I truly felt so sorry for myself. I honestly felt like I was the most miserable person on earth at that moment. When I'm in terrible times, I tend to exaggerate my pain to feel special. Because when you have a special hardship, a special pain, even if it's not positive, it makes you feel like, wow, how special must I be to have such great pain, such unique suffering? That's when I tend to exaggerate my suffering. I don't know if everyone is like that, but I definitely was at that time. Now let's move on to the more academic, slightly dry part, where I'll categorize types of anxiety. If you're not interested, you can fast forward to later sections. First, we need to understand what an anxiety disorder is. An anxiety disorder is when we are in a state of excessive and prolonged anxiety that severely interferes with daily life. It differs from normal anxiety because it doesn't just occur in stressful situations. It appears without cause, lasting even after the problem has passed. Anxiety is divided into many types, but I'll only mention the main, common ones. The first type is generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, which is a persistent state of prolonged anxiety. The second type is obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, which is an anxiety disorder characterized by obsessive thoughts and repetitive behaviors. These are people who fear uncertainty and a lack of control. We often joke about having OCD and call ourselves OCD, but if you truly understand what OCD is, you'll realize how terrifying it can be. Some people repeat actions to the point of self-harm. The next type of anxiety is panic disorder. These individuals are often very afraid of losing control, and they frequently experience baseless panic for no reason at all or only for minor issues. Nothing too major has happened, yet they're already panicking. And this panic doesn't help them fortify themselves to solve the problem, they simply panic. Next is social anxiety disorder. These people are often very afraid of crowds. They fear speaking in public, meeting others, and many are so severe that they dare not go to public places because they fear interacting with crowds. Then there's post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, also known as psychological trauma. This is an anxiety disorder that can occur when we experience an event, challenge, or experience that is too terrifying, causing serious harm and leading to trauma. If you're interested, you can read The Body Keeps the Score. It's not an ad, I really did read it. It's a book that talks in great detail about psychological trauma and how we can overcome it. Finally, there's separation anxiety disorder. This is when we experience immense fear at the prospect of separation, of leaving someone we've been very attached to. This can happen in both children and adults. There are many breakups where outsiders might wonder, why are they so heartbroken? Why can't they get over it? But it's because the two people in that relationship have been deeply attached to each other, too attached. And now, after breaking up, they feel like half of their life is gone, and it causes trauma and disorders. A while ago, I talked to an older friend of mine. She and her ex-boyfriend studied abroad together and lived overseas for many years. Now they've broken up. She's back in Vietnam, and he's still abroad. After breaking up with him, my friend had to go to therapy for a long time, and even now, she tells me she's terrified of love. It's not because she's afraid of meeting a bad person or anything, but she's afraid that if the love doesn't last forever, if it might end, whether she can handle it, whether she can endure that ending one more time. At that time, my friend and I confided in each other and laughed, saying that we live in an era where people can find love or something similar to love too easily, and they no longer cherish it. They can use the name of love to hurt others. A generation grows up afraid to love, afraid to give themselves to others, because they have experienced pain and know how broken they can be when they risk loving genuinely and ultimately receive nothing. A generation grows up seeking closeness, but without risk, experiencing joy, but without significant investment. They are too afraid, to the point of overlooking all the beautiful and essential aspects of true love. Honestly, I'm also a product of this era. I don't condemn anyone because I feel I'm no different from others. My own love life is very rocky. A while ago, I watched the movie Satya, a film about a devotee, and in it, a woman asked a monk, and the monk said that love is happiness accompanied by suffering. If you decide to love, you must be ready for suffering. Just love, but don't cling too much. Don't expect people to stay with you forever. Build a rich life for yourself, have your own life. Life is impermanent, and don't cling tightly to too many expectations because it will cause you suffering. Nothing truly belongs to anyone. The older I get, the more I quietly understand the saying, everything in this world has a price. If I want a great, passionate, love till you die kind of love, I must accept that if I lose them, I will suffer immensely, be utterly broken. If I have a bigger dream, I have to pay a bigger price. If I want a grand, successful career, I have to be persistent, accept rejection and failure many times. If I want true friends who care for me like family, I have to accept that we will interfere in each other's lives like a real family, in both good and bad ways. We have to spend time together, interfere in each other's lives, and solve life's problems for each other. Good things will always have hidden unpleasant things within them, just like the yin and yang symbol, you know. The black dot in white, the white dot in black. I once ended a relationship simply because I felt they were too good, and I was too anxious. I read a quote that sometimes you choose to leave someone not because they're not good, but because when you're with them, your own state isn't good. They didn't do anything bad or terrible to me, but I hated the image of myself when I was with them. They didn't intentionally make me anxious, but they were the cause of my anxiety and made me unable to control the anxiety within me. And I had to leave to deal with my own issues first. Actually, that was a relationship I truly regretted. They were genuinely a very good person. They were so good that even though we've broken up now, are no longer together, and I'm no longer present in their life, completely unrelated, I still hope they achieve the dreams they once told me about. Because I saw their passion when they pursued those things. I truly hope they achieve those things and can live well, live happily with their own choices, even if my life is not part of theirs. I've started to let the story wander a bit, everyone. Let's get back to the topic of anxiety now. So, let's move on to the next question. Where does anxiety come from? Generally speaking, this might sound a bit biased and irresponsible, but I think living in this world means facing a billion problems, and inevitably, we will all experience some anxiety. Some people are just unlucky. They are born with gloomy biochemical factors, all sorts of imbalanced substances in their brains, making them more prone to anxiety disorders than others. Or some people go through too many traumatic experiences and suffer from trauma. Or it could be due to environmental factors, stressful work, financial issues, or life in general. It can also be due to intergenerational trauma. What is intergenerational trauma? It means that when our grandparents and parents experience trauma, those things can absolutely be passed down to us, hence, intergenerational trauma. Later, I'll share a link to a very interesting study I read. When researchers studied the 8X and 9X generations, born in the 80s and 90s, they were very curious why these people were so prone to stress and anxiety. This generation was named the anxiety generation because they are the descendants, the children and grandchildren of soldiers who had to go to war and were constantly in a state of anxiety, fighting, or fleeing. They were always in situations of anxiety and stress, and that anxiety and stress were passed down to them. That's why we have the generation of late 7X and 8X, my parents' generation, who are very easily anxious, stressed, quick-tempered, and agitated. Now, some of the ways I overcame that period. First, reduce social media use. Seriously, social media really does cause us more anxiety because it's designed to grab attention, and anxiety is the most effective way to make us pay attention. That's not even counting marketing campaigns, sales campaigns, where people want to sell products, so they target fear. When your mental state isn't stable, use social media less. I'll share a link to a study about how social media makes us more anxious. Second, exercise and live healthily. I know telling someone going through an unstable mental phase to live healthier, or exercise more, so their life will improve. Everyone knows this. I know this is very difficult for people going through tough times because your mind is weary, you don't want to do anything else, and when you do nothing, everything in life gets worse. When you do nothing, it gets even worse, and then everything piles up, an entire system goes downhill. The worse life gets, the more problems you have, the less you want to do, and you just stay sluggish. I constantly remind myself that I, at this moment, am not myself. I, at this moment, am controlled by hormones, by anxiety attacks, by, well, all sorts of things in my brain deceiving me. This is not me. I won't do such things. And I have to try to escape this programming. I have to be like a robot. I have to be like a robot as if I have two brains commanding me. This brain knows that the other brain is playing tricks on me, and I won't listen. I'll try at all costs, everyone. Just try at all costs to live healthily again. If you can't exercise, go for a walk. If you feel too lazy to work, you don't need to be effective, just do it. Even if you do a terrible job, just do it. We're just trying to get back into the habit. Just keep trying. The third is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. In essence, the way it works is we try to identify the negative thoughts or actions most strongly linked to our anxiety, and then we find ways to challenge those issues and change those thoughts with more positive ones. Specifically, in CBT, there's exposure therapy, where we intentionally trigger our fears to an extreme degree. We fear something, so we stimulate it to an extreme level. For example, for me, I won't explicitly state my fear here because I shouldn't, but the way I do it is, if I fear thing A, for instance, I'll create a scenario to stimulate that fear to an extreme. I'll write a terrifying script about that thing, then I'll record it and listen to it repeatedly every day until I feel like, okay, I can't die from this. And after all of this, I just want to conclude that anxiety isn't inherently bad, as I mentioned at the beginning. And what I've said here isn't meant for us to stop being anxious, to eliminate anxiety entirely, because that's impossible. We only try to control it to a moderate level. If you're in a situation like I was before, I hope this podcast episode can help a little. If you're not having any problems, you can view this as a new perspective on mental health issues that a person might encounter. If you're still listening at this point, thank you for being here. And as I said at the beginning, if anyone is interested in my fundraising activities with LAN, scroll down below. I've left links to the fundraising information. And if anyone is interested in joining the workshops, please register via the link below. Thank you all so much.